Okay, meeting will come to order. This meeting, November 17th, and the first is a signing of the warrant.
Motion.
Motion by Brian, seconded by Bill. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Unanimous. Next, the approval of November 3rd, 2014 minutes.
I'll move.
Second.
Motion by Brian, seconded by Bill. Any discussion? That's unanimous as well. Invitation to speak? If anyone would like to say anything that's not on the agenda later on? All right. Our first appointment is with Truffles Grill and Wine Bar LLC, 198 East Main Street. We all know this is a very, very nice restaurant. They've been there for about 13 years. And this is an application for transfer of license and change of manager to Shiro Japanese Restaurant. The new manager of record will be Shesh Chow Vu. Transfer of license, restaurant, all alcoholic beverage. Just looking at all the paperwork. Okay, also the transfer an existing license, common victualler, to Shiro Japanese Restaurant LLC. And this is a public hearing, by the way. No, it's not a public hearing, no, it's not. Transfer from Truffles Grill and Wine Bar. The department head review form, everything is in order. The only thing is the Board of Health. Rick, does that still apply? The license to operate, plan review and all that?
Yep.
Okay. So, I'd like to turn it over to the gentleman who has had it for 13 years, and he can tell us a little bit what's happening. And then we also have Ms. Shesh, who will be able to say anything. So,
Actually, Cece.
Cece, that's right.
Well, after 13 years, Ann and I are looking forward to starting a new chapter in our life, and we signed a purchase and sale agreement to Cece, and looking forward to relocating down to the Carolinas once the sale is complete, and once we can take care of just tying up some loose ends in town. And, we're excited. We're looking forward to the next chapter. We will miss Milford. We made a lot of friends over the years, but like everything else, it's just time to move on to the next chapter.
Well, the restaurant has a wonderful reputation in
Thank
the
you.
area,
Thank you.
and you've done a nice job, been a good corporate neighbor, and we certainly want to thank you for everything.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
We appreciate that.
As far as renovation, will there be a lot of renovation and whatnot? Cece?
Yeah, we are just gonna change a little bit on the decoration.
Okay.
From like his restaurant from American, gonna be Chinese, like decoration with pictures and and then we also do a sushi bar. We're gonna make a sushi bar in front of the kitchen, and the bar we're gonna keep the same, except like on the area, the room, we're gonna create the 4 hibachis table. We're gonna have a constructor, like licensed constructor, coming to do all the exhaust the system, because we're gonna have a cooking table right in front of the customer.
Oh,
Yeah. So it's gonna be a little change, but not too much. We're gonna have, cause like his restaurant, everything look already nice. We're really impressed when we first come in. So we almost like keep everything except for putting the new table, like because the Chinese way is different. Yeah.
okay. And the hours of operation are going to be Monday to Thursday, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m., Friday and Saturday, 11 to 11 p.m., and then Sunday, 3 p.m. to 9 p.m., right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, do you have any experience, have you done this before, as far as restaurants?
Yeah, so I've been working for the restaurant for 7 years. So I came to US like 8 years, and I'm working for the restaurant for 7 years. And right now I manage the Vietnamese restaurant, but I've been working for the Chinese one for a while also. So I have a lot of experience in the restaurant and bartending too.
Oh.
So I hope I can, like make some business around here. I've been searching around, and I hope I can
And you
make
found the
some.
right place, right?
Yeah, I think I'm really impressed at the first look for his restaurant.
Yep.
Everything was so clean and so nice. I don't need to change a lot in there either, except for the table and the way we need to be.
Okay. And did you say you came to this country 8 years ago, 7 years ago? You speak English very well.
Oh, thank you.
Good. We'll get to the board members pretty soon. But one thing I would recommend is that you stay close with the administrator in the selectman's office if you have any questions, and also with the police chief. You should probably meet with the police chief and tell him that you're gonna be opening up. When will you be opening up, you think?
We hope, it depends on the paper, but we hope gonna be March.
March? Okay.
Yeah. So as soon as the license, everything's done, we're gonna start doing all the construction.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm doing all the permit for the food permit right now, but I'm
Okay,
still
with the Board of
waiting
Health?
for all the license coming, and then I'm gonna work with the Board of Health.
Good. So we'll be closing for a while, and then they'll be doing renovation.
Yep.
But,
Rick?
sorry.
No,
One
go
thing,
ahead,
can I ask you, like, when we take over the restaurant, we're gonna do construction only on the part of the, like the area that you have a door closed?
Side.
Yeah, we're gonna just do the construction, the hibachi table on that side, and the rest, we still, we didn't fix anything outside except for the sushi bar in front of your kitchen.
Yeah.
So my question is like, can I open the restaurant if everything is okay with the fire department and everything? Can we open while we still do the construction on the side? We're not gonna bother the customer
At the
outside.
right time, just check with the administrator, and he'll pull everything together for you with the
Yeah.
right people, okay?
You should be able to.
Rick, is all the paperwork in order? Rick?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Okay, so at this time, we'll go to the board members. Brian?
Congratulations on your, I don't want to say, should I say retirement or?
Oh, gosh, no. I'm 39, remember? I'm not going to retire.
All right, your next evolutionary step.
Yes, thank
know,
you.
so,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, you ran a very nice business here in Milford for a lot of years, wonderful restaurant, you did a great job, so
Thank you.
from the town's perspective, we really thank you for that and wish you all the best with the
Thank you.
future.
Thank you. We've enjoyed a lot of support from the town. We've appreciated it over the years. We really have.
Good,
Yep.
thank you. And congratulations to you on opening up this new restaurant. It's a very difficult business, the restaurant business, as I'm sure you know. So I wish you all of the best for success in this endeavor. Just so I know what's going on, there's going to be a pledge of the license, correct?
Correct.
Pledge of
There's
the
a
license for
there's
the
a small amount of
promissory
financing,
note.
yes.
Okay, all right, so there's going to be a pledge of the license.
Yep.
And then the lease, you had an existing lease and you've assigned it or transferred it to the new owner?
That's still, there's a letter of intent to lease to CC, but
Okay.
that has not been finalized as of yet.
Okay, but that would all be finalized as part of the closing?
Right.
Correct.
Okay, all right, great.
Correct.
And then other than that, you just have a straight purchase price, the amount financed, which I guess the Truffles LLC is taking back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
Well, best of luck with everything,
Thank you very much.
yeah.
Thanks, Brian. Bill?
No, I want to also congratulate you for the time that you've spent in Milford and
Thank
what you've meant to the community. And
you.
I know I've spent a few times in there. I've been there a few times and had the opportunity to sample your meals, and so it was always enjoyable.
Thank you.
And good luck to whatever the future brings for you.
Thank you very much.
My question is really for CC, and you said that you came here 8 years ago. Where'd you originate from?
I'm Vietnam.
Vietnam, okay. And so your experience with Japanese restaurants is what?
Yeah, I have a partner. It's like everything is like, I have my uncle, which is right here with me. So he been experienced for the Japanese restaurants for 35 years. So he owned the restaurant before in Worcester.
Okay.
Yeah, a Chinese. And then he sold it, and now we want to open the new one over here. So I'm not by myself, so but for sure, yeah. So I'm sure, like with his help, I'm gonna be, more confident to run the business smoother.
All right. I've traveled extensively to Japan and enjoyed the Japanese food and culture, so can't wait to see what you bring.
Thank you. I receive a lot of help from your town, especially Jean. She helping me a lot.
A lot of help from her
I've been seeing
too.
her forever.
Cece, also at Christmas time, she makes great Italian cookies, so if you want to change a little bit, make sure you try.
Yeah.
I don't have any more questions.
All right. So like I said, just at the right time, within a couple of weeks, make an appointment with the police chief and tell him what you're doing and all that, because we do this for all the new establishments, okay?
Yeah.
And he might be able to give you some good tips, you have some questions, and that would be good. All right, so at this time, we'll have some motions, Brian, for the all-alcoholic and common victual license.
Motion to approve?
Motion by Brian, second
Second.
by Bill. Any discussion, all in favor? And then the change of manager will be C.C. Vu.
I'll move.
Motion by Brian, second by Bill. Any discussion? And I think we have everything.
I think you need a motion for the pledge.
Pledge.
too, I
Pledge,
believe. Yeah.
All right,
I'll
Rick, it
move.
wasn't down here. Okay, pledge by,
I'll move.
pledge by Brian, second by Bill. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Unanimous. So, thank you for everything.
Thank you.
We welcome you to Milford, and hopefully you'll be just as successful as the previous business.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you all very much.
Thank
Good
you.
luck. Thank you, good luck.
Good
Good
luck.
luck with everything.
Okay, Joe, come up front. Priscilla? All right, next we have this is a public hearing to consider the issue of allocating percentage of tax levy class of properties for fiscal year 15. Legal notice was published in the Milford Daily News on November 5th. We have Priscilla Hogan, we have Joe Arcudi, Joe Nero, and the new incoming assessor Jennifer Sklar. So, as always, Priscilla and the assessors do a great job, wonderful presentation, good explanation for all the people watching and listening at home, and we look forward to the presentation as always. Priscilla?
Mr. Chairman,
Oh, I'm sorry,
before
Joe.
we turn it over to Priscilla, but you already beat me to it. I wanted to introduce you to our new assessor administrator who's going to fill Priscilla's shoes, I
Some
hope.
big shoes, huh, Joe? Joe?
You're right. Jan Scalard
Yes.
from Millbury.
General, if I could just intervene a minute. This will be Priscilla's last presentation, always done well. And she has given many years of dedication to the town of Milford. She is officially retiring on February the 2nd, and in light of what Joe was saying, she has done an outstanding job for the town of Milford. I mean, what she has done is beyond recognition. And I know that Jen will carry that all the way forward, so thank you very much.
No question, she's
Yeah,
one of the
turn it over
best,
to
great,
Priscilla.
tremendous reputation, and how many years overall?
It'll be almost 15 when I
15
retire
years.
here in Milford.
See?
All right.
Seems like yesterday, but
And she makes you guys look great all the time, that's fantastic. Okay, Priscilla, go ahead.
thank you. Okay, to start off with, I thought maybe I'd invite Ed Thompson maybe to come and do it because he did such a great job this morning. I didn't really see a need to come, but here I am anyways. Our values have been approved by the Department of Revenue, and as you can see, our new values for fiscal 2015 residential, we have at $2,217,705,125. That's 77.20% of the value of the town. The commercial is $348,378,343, a little over 12% of the town. Industrial is $202,379,888, and that's a little over 7%. And our personal property comes in at $104,185,362, 3.62%. The total commercial, industrial, and personal property comes to the 22.79%. The whole value of the town now is at $2,872,648,718. This slide here shows us what our new town budget is. It's at $99,261,931.81. The estimated receipts, which we have come from many different sources, whether it be state aid, motor vehicle excise, receipts that come into the town, that's applied towards the budget. That's at $40,522,613.75. The total amount to be raised by the taxes is the balance once you take away the estimated receipts. So that leaves us a tax levy amount to be raised at $58,739,318.06. If you divide that by the total taxable value of the town, of the $2,872,648,718, times 1,000 gives you a single tax rate of $20.45 if we chose not to split the rate. This was a slide I introduced last year because it really tells the overall changes from our interim year adjustment values. And I thought it was an important one because when you get into the averages, they get skewed for many different reasons. And this one tells you what happened with the market for these particular classes, and this is why your values changed. Your single-family values changed a little over 4%. The condo values are going up 6%. 2 and 3 families are at 5. Multifamilies is at 1. And then you see vacant land is going up 3.3, commercial's 3.1, and industrial's 1.3. This slide I do present every year, and this is where I was talking about the averages getting a little skewed because I think this is helpful. Unfortunately, I don't know if the people at home can see the change in value from FY14 to 15. It's in the red line near the bottom, not at the exact bottom. It shows that the single-family values, this year the average comes in at $265,062. If you use the rate, if we stayed at the 148 shift, the rate for residential would be $17.55. And then, so your average tax bill would be $4,651.84. The line below that, FY14 average, last year's average was $253,768. Last year's tax rate was $1,769, and last year's average bill was $4,489.16. So the increase in the average is 4.45%. If you're looking at the condo section, and this is why the other slide was way more important, that showed condos went up 5%. This here looks like the average went up 11.65%. And that's deceiving in the fact when you have a new condo complex come in and it has a phase to it, like a Walden Woods has its final phase into completion, I have to create a card for all those units that are going to be in the final phase. So last year that was done. So we had an additional, I think it was 80 units that were added into the count last year, but they all had no value. So now the values are coming into this year. We had, I want to say, I think it was about 40 units that were completed this year. There was some at Zane Circle. So your value's coming in, but your count's not going up, so it throws your average off. And that's why the average at 11.65% seems so high. Our values went up considerably, our count did not. And that's why the previous slide showing from the interim adjustment, condos are going up 5%. This is a little skewed, just like last year with the nursing home. We had the big nursing home partially complete, and it threw that class way up, as did the water treatment facility, threw that way up. So this just gives you an idea on averages, what the differences are from this year to last year. On the bottom row, or the next to the bottom row, the change in average tax, you're going to see the average residential tax is going up $162.68. The condos is $326.48, the 2-family $163.98, the 3 families $186.80, the multis $509.95, commercials $292.95, and industrials $367.42. This slide, which you can't see the whole thing on here, unfortunately.
So this is for the 1.8 million that was applied.
Yes, I was going to try and back up the machine, but it doesn't back things up so that you could see it a little bit better. This has to do with the amount that the town has voted to put towards lowering the tax rate. The town has $1,854,000 towards lowering the rate this year. And the average tax bill, which I'm going to have to get my slide because I can't see it on here.
So you want my sheet?
That would be great.
Yeah,
Thank
yes.
you. It shows that without the 1.854 applied to lowering the rate, the average tax bill would be $4,797 with, and this is on the residential class. With the $1,854,000 applied towards lowering the rate, the average tax bill will be $4,651.84. So the residential class, or average residential home, will save $145.78 due to this money that's put back to the taxpayer. On the commercial bills, with your average value and the average commercial value, without that 1.854 applied to lowering the rate, the average tax bill is $23,529.20. If you take the $1,854,000 and apply it towards lowering the rate, which the town has adopted, the average commercial tax bill is $22,805.69, and that leaves a savings of $723.51 to the business owner with that value.
Priscilla, just a quick question.
Sure.
The town voted to apply $1.4 million, I thought. I just want to make sure I understand what we voted at town meeting.
They did, and then there was excess levy capacity of another $454,000. So a town meeting voted the 1.4 to apply towards lowering the rate, and we have not gone to the levy limit of another, because we didn't know the growth number at the time you had town meeting. So we have additional levy that is not being raised, so the total is the 1.
I'm just reading the words, and it says the town didn't put $1,854,000 towards lowering the tax rate. So the town applied $1.4 million to the tax rate.
Right.
I don't want to give the impression that the $400,000 that we didn't tax to the maximum levy capacity, money that the taxpayer already has in their pocket, we've suddenly reapplied towards lowering the tax rate. We chose and didn't spend to the maximum capacity, maximum levy capacity. That
Right.
taxpayer already has that money,
That's right.
the $400,000. So the town voted to apply $1.4 million to the tax.
Okay,
It-
right,
There's a significant difference there. The taxpayer already has $400,000.
right.
We didn't lower the tax bill with that $400,000. We chose not to.
You chose not
Tax.
to raise it. So that's what's left in the excess levy capacity is the 1.854.
Okay.
That's your excess levy capacity.
I got
Yes,
it.
it is.
And I think what's most important is that town meeting, the selectmen, the financial department heads, I think we've always tried to put money aside to offset the tax rate. And thank God we were able to put 1.8, 1.4, whatever you want to call it, because that has a tremendous benefit to the residential and the commercial industrial taxpayer.
Yes.
So I think it's most advantageous that we're able to do that, and hopefully we can do it all the time. But at some point in the future, I don't know if we can continue to apply 1.4, whatever the number may be. But we've been fortunate to do it thus far. I think it's a goal of everyone to do that. And as you said, the residential taxpayer saves about $145 by that action plan having been instituted.
Right, that's right. This particular slide I do show every year, and all it does is show you the difference between the shift, the change in the taxes, just on the shift alone, not the budget or anything else. So if you were to go from the 148 shift on a home valued at $265,062, you go to the 149 shift, that shift alone is gonna save you $15.90, and vice versa on the other way. So that's really what that's gonna show. And the commercial is basically the same thing. On a $500,000 building, if you stay at the 148 shift, it shows you what the average tax bill will be. If you shift to the 149, it's gonna show it goes up $105, and if you shift to the 147, it goes down $100. The levy increase from last year, last year, well, this year we have $58,739,318.06. Last year's levy was $56,862,146, I'm sorry, $56,862,146.78. The increase is $1,877,171.28. It's an overall increase of 3.3% in the amount to be raised in taxes. This slide here, unfortunately, we're not getting the whole slides on this computer. I apologize for that.
I think
It's a
the
new
com-
setup.
The computer guy is here, you can blame him.
And that was thank you. This slide shows you that the single rate, if we were to adopt the single rate, would be at $20.45. The average single-family value is at $265,062. The average single-family tax bill, if it was at the single rate, would be $5,420.52. The average commercial value is $773,800. At the single rate, the average commercial tax bill would be $15,824.21. Down below, it shows you the different shifts with the different rates. The residential rate, if we stay at the same shift of 1.48 that we had last year, would be $17.55, which is an average increase of $162.68 on a home valued at $265,062. And it shows the difference. If you go to the 149 shift, the increase on taxes would be $146.77 on the residential, and the 147 shift would be $178.58. That's an increase or decrease of $15.90, depending which shift you take. On the commercial taxpayer, the average commercial value at $773,800. If you stay at the 148 shift, the tax rate would be $30.26, and that shows an increase to the taxpayer of $292.96. The 149 shift, the tax rate would be $30.47, and that would be an increase of $455.46. If you went to the 147 shift, the tax rate would be $30.06, and that would be an increase of $138.20. So as we do through this presentation, we're here basically to make a couple of decisions by the Board of Selectmen. And the first one would be to decide if you're going to grant a residential exemption on the properties. The second is if you're going to decide to do a personal, small business exemption, and then on the split of the rate.
Okay, this is a public hearing, but before we get to the public, and I'll also read a letter, I'd like to go to the board members for any questions or comments that they'd like to, may have or like to make. Brian?
First of all, Priscilla, thank you very much for year in, year out of just excellent analysis, very concise reporting, making something that is complicated, I think, very easy to understand. And I've got all of your reports since you've been here, going back 15 years.
I know you do, you help me out with them
Yeah.
sometimes.
And it's very helpful, to look at the numbers and chart the growth and see the trends. I think overall, I guess some of the conclusions that you can draw from this in the aggregate, the housing market is improving.
Yes.
Even with the spike of the Walden Woods, it seems that the condo market is improving, and commercial real estate as well.
Yes, it is, and what I think is a good thing is it's not dramatic. It's coming back slowly, and I see that the sales from this year is the same idea. They're coming back, but it's not a jump-in craziness like we had not that long ago. So I think that's a nice stability as you go forward.
It is, and it seems as though, I mean, things can always change like in '08, but it seems as though that trend is gonna be on the uprise.
Yes, I believe next year you're gonna be in a full revaluation, and you're gonna see the values, I think, are gonna go up similar to what they were this year. I think your residential is gonna be around your 5%, your condos are gonna be similar to that. I don't see dramatic. I think it's gonna be a nice steady rise, which is positive.
And it really, should, at least we should take note of what I consider a very significant amount of excess levy, that $1.9 million, by not spending to the 2.5 limit as allowed under law. That is money that goes to reduce the tax bill. The commercial tax bill gets reduced more than the residential bill because of the dual tax rate. Are you aware of any other communities that go to that level in terms of excess levy?
There are not a lot of them, that's for sure. I know Westboro has quite a high excess levy capacity, but I don't know of a lot that do. A lot of them are struggling just to kind of stay on top of things. So no, I think Milford's in very good financial shape, if that's really what you're getting to. I think the planning that you folks have done over my 14 and a half, almost 15 years here, as I watch it as an outsider, is incredible to see the projects you get done, the services you offer, and still manage to control the spending. I think, you should really take your hat off to all the people involved for that. I think it's been a great job.
Because it really is a balancing act. Not only do you have to provide services to the resident, infrastructure to the town, but you also have to be cognizant of the taxpayer and their ability to go
Exactly.
forward and handle the responsibility. So, it is quite a balancing act. And, I think the information that you've given us, that the support that your board has given us over the years, has certainly made this an easier process. So, thank you. You will be missed.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Bill?
Thank you, Priscilla. You have made what I would consider a very difficult topic easier to understand. I think your explanation to the public, I think your explanation in these meetings goes a long way. I know you've always said, and if you don't mind me quoting you, function of the tax rate, largest function on the tax rate is what we spend at town meeting.
Right.
So the decision tonight is what shift we apply, really. At the end of the
Exactly.
day, the selectmen decide on the shift. Otherwise, the obligation to meet that $99 million budget comes from the taxpayer.
Exactly.
And I hope you're right. I hope that we're on a steady increase, not just with valuations. I think, valuation is a paper exercise for a lot of people unless you're selling property. It really doesn't matter.
Right.
And it's, as Brian suggested, the balancing act between the person who's not at the table, right, the taxpayer, when we're making all the decisions, other than a town meeting, is, hopefully their wages and hopefully their costs will, their wages will see increases such, and their businesses will see increases such that they'll be able to meet these obligations. Otherwise, valuation is really a paper exercise for a lot of people, But
I agree with you. I believe it's the tax bill. When people come into us,
it's whether they can pay it or
it's not their
not.
value that they're questioning, it's their tax bill
Yeah.
that they have trouble paying.
Yeah.
Yes.
And not taxing to the levy capacity has been something that I've been a strong advocate for a long time. I think applying the $1.4 million because of the free cash scenarios that we were able to put together help. The $400,000 that's remaining was always, again, I just want to say, it was always in the taxpayer pocket. We just didn't spend it. I don't want to make it sound like we're returning money back to them to the tune of an additional $400,000. That was always theirs. And I think we're budgeting wisely. I think there's a lot of good things happening. At the same time, the taxpayer, the town, when we look at utility rate increases that Rick just sent a note out to all the department heads, is going to be significant. It's also going to be significant to the ratepayers, and then the health insurance. So we're getting pressure from all sides, and it is that balancing act that was talked about earlier. But I do appreciate, I want to go back to my point, I appreciate your contribution to the town's success and your ability to explain it to residents that come into your office. I know on a continual stream, especially when tax bills come in. And it's, you're not always the most popular person for that, but you're doing your job and you're doing it respectfully.
And I try to be fair with everybody.
And
That is our goal.
I know that. I've never heard anything otherwise. So I appreciate it, and thank you for your service to this community.
Thank you.
Yeah, no question, Priscilla. I think it has to be said. The guys do a great job. They're always there for the public, and Sam is unable to be here tonight. And Priscilla, you've always been there to any type of committee that we've had. I know we started the committee for tax relief for senior citizens, and we met last week, and we're going to be meeting in a couple of weeks, and you're always there with the information. And I think that, we talk about the same things all the time. We talk about, the person who has to pay the tax bill goes up $50, $100, $110. In many cases, difficult. We talk about the small businesses who support the community. They pay over and above. And hopefully, at some point, we can continue to attract, good, clean industry to the town, so that it certainly will help out the residential taxpayer and also help out the commercial tax. We're very cognizant of that, and it goes back to what's important. We have the superintendent, the school system costs a lot of money to educate children. Very, very important. Public safety, the roads, everything that we try to do. We started that a long time ago, putting money to the stabilization account so that we could take care of these projects without an override or a debt exclusion. We also said, let's try not to tax to the full levy to provide an extra benefit to the resident. But all in all, when that person looks at the tax bill, it's very difficult. And if someone is laid off, or if someone is not getting an increase, it's certainly difficult. Everybody knows that in the town of Milford. I think, future boards, future selectmen, Milford's always been a very conservative town. As you remember, Joe and Joe, even before Proposition 2.5, we were always very conservative. And at that time, you could spend whatever your town meeting approved. But even back then, 33 years ago, 34 years ago, a lot of things weren't being done. So then we came together and said, hey, we have to be responsible, because if we don't start doing these projects, then we're going to put tremendous pressure on future generations. And, everybody's cognizant of that, and we try to do the best we can, and I'm sure we make mistakes at times, but I think overall, what we try to give to the taxpayer, and also what we try to give to the small business and the large businesses is, the tremendous service from the officials of Town Hall as far as infrastructure, road construction, whatever has to be done. But we always have to be mindful of that information. Before we get to the public hearing part, I'm sorry, Bill, anything else?
No, nothing else. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We do have a letter from the Milford Industrial Development Commission. The IDC supports the Selectmen's efforts to maintain a business-friendly and competitive environment for commercial and industrial uses in Milford. To the extent possible, the IDC encourages the Selectmen to minimize the shift in the dual tax rate between residential and industrial uses. After reviewing the data recently provided by the assessor, we suggest that the Selectmen consider maintaining the rate shift at its current percentage. And that's signed by several members of the IDC.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
if I could, just for 1 second, because we got a little bit of a head start on the process this year. You had shared some information with us at the last meeting about the small business exemption. Maybe for everyone's benefit, could you just give us a little summary of, what that was and your findings and all of that? Because that was really, part of this, but we covered it when folks might not have been paying attention at a prior meeting.
Sure. When the small business exemption to qualify, there's a few qualifications that you have to meet. And some of them are, first, the property has to be valued under $1 million. You have to have 10 or less employees. I'm trying to think of the.
Class 3.
It has to be a commercial Class 3 property. Thank you. And so she's going to fit right in, I'm telling you. So we get a list from the Department of Unemployment, and it's a confidential list only to us. And it lists all the businesses in town that have 10 or less employees. So I have to go through that list, and I did. I went out on the road to see who's where, who's still there, who was there on the January 1st, because they have to meet, that's what it is, they have to be there January 1st as well. So out of the, I think there was about 290 small businesses on the list. And once you ruled out if they were in a property that was over $1 million, if they weren't there January 1st, or and the other piece is if you're in a complex, and this was an example I gave you, like where Marty's Kitchen is, there's probably 6 or 7 stores in that little shopping area. You could have 3 businesses with under 10 employees, but that would disqualify them because all of those businesses have to qualify. So after ruling out and taking out all the ones that didn't meet the qualifications, I believe there was 48 that did meet the qualifications. So if you chose to give them, you can give them up to a 10% exemption on the value of the property, the commercial piece. If you gave them the 10%, their tax rate would go down, but all the other commercial properties have to pick that tax rate up. And that means all the other small businesses that didn't qualify are now going to have a higher tax bill. So you could have reduced 48 of them, but yet you're increasing the remainder small businesses along with the others. And the thing that I pointed out that I find unfair, and it is our job to be fair and equitable in the assessor's office, and that's what we always look at, is you could have a doctor, an attorney, a accountant that has a condo office space that they own, and then you have the exact same setup in a building where, say, WMRC is. And this one would qualify, the one in the condo space could qualify for the exemption, but the one in the WMRC could not because not everybody in that building qualifies. So it becomes very unfair on who would actually receive the exemption. And the other piece to that is it's the property owner that receives the exemption. It's not necessarily the business if the business doesn't own the property that's there. And it's up to the property owner to know if they're going to pass that on to the business or not. So you would benefit 48 businesses, but you're going to be hurting the other 200 and whatever's left, small businesses, along with the others by increasing their tax rate. So that was the presentation I had given to you.
And in fact, not many communities throughout the state utilize that
No, I
exemption.
believe there's 10.
Yeah.
I believe that's the number
Out
I
of
gave you.
351.
Out of 351. And after and I did call a couple of them to see how that was working, and I did talk to the attorney at the Department of Revenue, and they felt it's a very cumbersome and it's not a fair and equitable type thing. And the attorney actually said it's bad legislation, it's not a good law. There's got to be a better way to help small businesses.
Sure.
And I agree with that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sure. Anything else? No. Okay, this is a public hearing, and I know we have 3 gentlemen in the back. Would anyone like to make any comments or not? Okay. We do have 3 motions that have to be made. Number 1, Brian, why don't you go with the...
Mr. Chairman, I would move to set the split at the 1.48.
I'll
Motion
second
by
that.
Brian, seconded by Bill. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, opposed. Bill, want to take the second one?
Not sure which piece of paper you're looking at. To not grant residential exception for properties that are the principal residence of the owner. I'd make that motion.
Okay, seconded by
Seconded.
Brian. Any discussion? All in favor? Unanimous. And the third one, Brian?
And I'll move to not adopt the small business exemption.
Okay, motion by Brian,
Second.
seconded by Bill. Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, so we appreciate everything, the presentations. You've been fantastic. You've been a tremendous ambassador for the town of Milford. And I know firsthand what you mean to the town and what you mean to the assessing, the whole process, and all the committees you've been involved with. And Jennifer, you have some big shoes to fill, you know.
I do know.
All right, I'm sure you'll do well.
I've been involved with Priscilla through those associations, and Priscilla was actually a mentor to me many, many years ago.
Okay.
When I started in this.
That was many,
field.
many years.
And
It feels like it too.
and you're spot on with everything. She's been a wonderful colleague.
Okay. So on behalf of the board, Joe, thank you.
Thank you.
Priscilla, thank you.
See you
It's
guys.
been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Priscilla, thank you for everything.
Sad. You did well.
I'll get that signed, yeah.
When's your last day, Priscilla? Priscilla, when's your
February
last-
2nd, I think she said.
Oh,
She's gonna be
So-
around.
Can you shut the machine off or whatever, if you can?
I think it's up top.
We got the IT guy coming up, let him deal with it. Got the IT guy here, let him
He's
deal
tall
with it.
enough.
He can give us a demonstration.
It's up
if we
top
can-
that the,
Nobody's here.
Paul, can you shut off the,
Can't, he's
Don't worry
fine.
about it.
That's all right.
Don't worry about it.
All right.
I think you're gonna go to the ceiling. And figured you were tall enough.
Certainly, I couldn't do it.
Good to see you guys.
Take care, guys. Take care, Joe.
Oh, ghost.
Joe, take care.
Press power button to turn
more
off.
time.
There you go. Yeah, we're good.
Thank you,
Paul,
Paul.
once you have a seat, you're gonna be next anyway. All right, next is Din Din Restaurants, doing business as Pepperoncini's Pizzeria and Grill
Oh,
regarding automatic amusement license.
Yeah.
Is this Mr. Losapio?
How are you? Vince Lucerbo.
How are you, sir? Why don't you have a seat, okay? Right there. I just started reading the application. This is an application for a new license, Pepperoncini's. Like I said, Lawrence Pisapio, right?
No, Vince Lucerbo.
Okay, oh, all right. This is for 3 golfing games.
And a couple of video games for the kids, yeah.
Okay, and I believe, I checked with the administrator today. Rick, can you talk about what was paid?
Yes, the tax collector had shown personal property taxes for fiscal year 15. Those are now paid, and also the real estate fiscal year 15 are also paid. So all his fiscal year 15 taxes are paid.
Okay. Why don't you just tell us what you would like to do, whatever the case may be, okay?
Just the 3 video games for the kids while they're waiting on a Friday, Saturday night. The parents can, send them over and they can play some games while they're waiting. And that's it.
Okay. Brian, any questions?
No,
Comments?
no, good luck,
Yeah,
I don't
Bill?
have any questions.
Motion?
good luck. I'll move.
I'll move.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? If not, all in favor? And that's unanimous. Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, now, next we have Paul Blivis, the IT director, an update. I saw you on TV last week.
Oh, good.
Came across very well. I think the discussion was a little bit disjointed at one point, but I think you're doing a great job, working very closely with the town administrator, the committee.
Yep.
And we look forward to the presentation. Go ahead, Paul.
Okay, thank you. I think Rick had distributed an org chart for
Yes.
our IT department.
Yes.
So I can just briefly explain, obviously, I'm the IT director, and we recently hired a
Not the
technical
organizational
support
chart.
person, and his name is Brandon Vandal, and he's right here in the town of Milford. And he's doing excellent. He started in the end of August,
Sure.
and I started in mid-June, so we're trying to do the best we can in helping, the town and the school district as far as we implemented a help desk solution. So that's kind of the first stepping stone in righting the ship, so to speak, in terms of.
And Paul, that's with the ticket system and all that, right?
Yeah, exactly, and it's part of what Bob's been, his team has been used to in terms of School Dude. We purchased a module inside of that called IT Direct, so it wasn't obscure to many, so they were very well familiar with the system. And so from one old system to the new system, we kind of implemented all the tickets, existing tickets into the new one. So it's kind of a big snowball to handle at first, so we're kind of whittling away at as many as we can right now, so. That's kind of it, but just to go on back to the first page, the 2 that we have full-time are myself and Brandon, that basically comprise the IT department right now. As you'll see, the bottom row there listed in orange, from left to right, we have Dan Nelson. He's a full-time teacher at the Milford High School, and he assists when he can as far as like re-imaging machines for the high school. He teaches computers, computer science and that sort of thing, programming, and he has some students that he's trained in like little help desk issues that they kind of go out within the high school and fix for teachers. So we have that available to us as well, but it's on a very limited basis, maybe 40 minutes a day, given 1 or 2 days a week possibly, when they can go out. So we utilize that to the best of our ability, within the high school. So the next one over was, I mentioned in the middle, was the high school students. And then the third one over, Kevin McIntyre, the assistant superintendent, and myself, we interviewed and hired the technology integration specialist, and that's Sarah Boyle. And she's very well adapted to technology and teaching students and teachers. And Kevin and I kind of split her time with projects that keep her busy according to curriculum and technology. So we're looking forward to fully utilizing her as well.
Yeah, I found last week the presentation very interesting. You were talking about this, having the right people to work with the employees. When something's broken, you write out a ticket. And I think the turnaround, what was the turnaround as far as getting the tickets fixed?
Well, so far, it's been pretty good. I mean, Dan Nelson agrees with us and our team as far as he's seen a wave of improvement. We still have a long way to go, obviously, but we closed from October 8th to date, we closed 465 tickets. I mean, it's quite a bit, but there's still about 120 or so in the queue. So depending on how fast we can get to those, you have issues like today where we had an internet problem, an internet go down at a school, so it consumes a lot of our time, and then tickets build up, and that sort of thing. So that's kind of where we're at. But I mean, definitely more help is fully recommended to get the process kind of where the tides kind of change a little bit. So.
And I know the administrator has a plan for that.
Yeah.
Working with the committee and whatnot.
Right.
Rick, I'm sorry, I was going to ask you at the beginning, any comments you'd like to make?
No, I just want to recognize Paul. We also have Brandon Vandal. Paul has been here about, 5 months, Paul, I believe.
Yep.
We also, as he could tell you, we also are working with a consultant, a World Band, so they are assisting us, hopefully with more specialized projects, and obviously things when we have significant down issues with internet and the like. So they are also part of this process on a monthly basis and are available to us, and we have been using them. Paul is in the process of, we'll be working on obviously a budget need for the next fiscal year, and we expect that he will be dealing with a long-range type plan so that we can phase in our technology needs. So he also has started, I believe, working on that. We have made inroads, but we have a ways to go. I think we've made significant inroads here at Town Hall. A new wireless network, for example, we've added 2 servers, 20 new computers, which I know I've told you about previously. I think the ticketing system has been helpful. I think we're working also with Superintendent Tremblay, who's here, the school business manager, the facilities director, Dr. McIntyre. So we have meetings every couple of weeks on average where we try to set short-term goals and long-term goals with assigning responsibility for those goals and some type of completion date. And then the subsequent meeting, or whenever the completion date is at that meeting, we'll discuss those. So I'm encouraged. I still think we have a long way to go. I think Bob would tell you that on the school side. The emphasis is going to be placed there. But I think we're headed in the right direction.
Oh, as far as the software, the hardware, how is that on both sides?
As Rick mentioned, I think the town's a little better off currently. On the school side, we need a lot of hardware up front initially. We're trying to build the infrastructure, the backbone to support many of the projects that kind of came on early with like the phone system and the access control for the doors and the cameras. It's on a network that's barely supporting it. We have some servers that are really slow at the schools, so we need to focus our attention there and really build up the infrastructure enough so that we can handle newer technology that will keep us kind of afloat. So
if you had a wish list, let's say with three or four items, what would they be? If you could get those tomorrow.
It would definitely be new routers and switches to currently support the backbone. We need some fiber really going to all the buildings within themselves to connect kind of the hub, I think, would be the high school itself and the central office. So those are kind of bigger ticket items with the fiber initiated, but we're talking about like the grants and things like that. We just had a meeting about too. And also to support maybe one-to-one in the near-term future, we obviously need the Wi-Fi infrastructure built into place to handle that as well. And I've talked to a bunch of other districts and got the volume capacity got the basic technical requirements, associated with that. So we got a good head start in preparation for it, but again, like you said, it's a wish list, pecking order, I guess you could call it too. So what needs priority?
I met Brandon last week.
Yep.
We had a little scare that morning, and no, he was I talked to him for about a half an hour, very energetic, very skilled, motivated to work with people and getting things repaired, fixed, and so I think having people like that certainly goes a long way, along with what you've provided to the town.
Yep. Keep a positive attitude, we'll make the right changes and get things accomplished, so.
And everything comes down to money, too. So
It does,
you have the
yeah.
money.
Exactly.
And I'm sure that, we try to do things the best we can, but a lot of other, like, for example, we have an engineering department, planning department, and we have 2 people, where, look at Franklin, they have like 12 people.
Yeah.
So this is something probably in some of the larger communities, probably have a lot more staff and department heads than we do here,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, definitely.
Rob, from your perspective, how's it going? Doctor?
Good evening, everyone. Thanks. I think it's going well. I think, to echo the administrator's comments, we have a ways to go. The school department's a big operation, and with a tremendous demand for technology. We have, over 4,000 students, most of whom use devices when they're not in school, and in some respects come to school and can't use them. We need to change that. As much as we need to have the book skills of our students, they also need to be able to access information in real time. That poses a tremendous challenge on the infrastructure, the network architecture that Paul is sort of up against. Besides the systems we have for the remote access control and cameras and food service, you name it. If it has a function in school, it has a technological, implication to it. If we are now to roll out a one-to-one device like other towns are doing, that puts a tremendous strain on the bandwidth. And if we are depending on technology for student instruction and that we can't provide that, we've invested a lot of money for nothing. So I'm reluctant to make a step forward with a one-to-one beyond the theory and actually rolling that out until I have the confidence that we can have every device accessed simultaneously. We're working toward that. So
Yeah.
there's this 3-year strategic plan that we have for the school district that I've worked in tandem with the school committee to develop. What I would envision next is for Paul, and now that he's have a few months under his belt here in Milford, is to now dovetail that with a technology plan that provides the structure based on the sort of skeletal ideas in the 3-year plan. So if, for example, year 1 may be to evaluate one-to-one models and what kinds of devices are best practice, we need to start to cost that. So we are now planning for that over the next 3 years and building that into the budget. So there's got to be a link between the school budget, town budget side, and what the strategic plan is for the school department and for the town moving forward. But we're on our way. There's much more work to be done. I think for Paul, getting a handle on what's in place, what's been band-aided, what's been corrected, with a more permanent solution, what the short and long-term needs are is the next step. But overall, I think we're making our way.
Good.
And trying to be, in sync with the Massachusetts standards as well, and the park testing, I know, in a couple of years, so that's where we want to get to.
Yeah,
with
just
those
to
plans.
comment on that, I'm glad you mentioned that, Paul, thanks. So we're moving from the MCAS test you may be familiar with to what's called now the park tests. We're doing a paper and pencil version of that, but ideally we'd have an electronic version of that where if you've taken the GREs or any kind of an online assessment, you complete it and submit it electronically. It just makes sense. So that's the next wave of assessments. We want to make sure we're ready for that. We also worked together and just submitted today, actually, a competitive grant to the DESC for infrastructure improvements, which would basically pay 40 cents on the dollar for money that we've already allocated in our budget. So it's not new money. That if we are afforded that grant, that's a tremendous opportunity for us to build that architecture we need for the network. So again, it's looking very promising, but there's a lot of users on the student end, and then there's a whole separate world of of digital citizenship and how not only you have the device, the appropriate ways to use those devices and control and limit who accesses what information, and it's complicated.
Of course, it's complicated. Okay, we'll go to the board members. Brian?
Yeah, no, thank you for the presentation. The last few years, at least at this level, we've gotten such mixed messages as to the state of IT in this town from the two, past directors. It's been very, very confusing, I think, to try to get a handle on where we're at, where we ought to be. Now, overlay that with, the speed the technology changes, and, you talk about a 3-year plan. I mean, how difficult is it to put a 3-year plan into place anyway, where knowing in the 3rd year, what you had looked at, 2 years prior is now obsolete?
Yeah.
So, to me, I mean, I'm not, and maybe you can, shed some light on it, but, how do you decide at what level of technology, to stay at?
Yeah, a lot of it has to do with the hardware and software and the technology itself. You get some stable versions, and you obviously go with good brands and the ones that can keep up, with the major brands, Dell and HP and those sort of things too. But technology's always been built around 3 to 5 year plans, and I think you always visit those yearly anyway, because technology goes out of date very quickly, or they found bugs in the hardware and that sort of thing. So you obviously have to keep continually updating. So that's part of my function as well. Once we put the 3 to 5 year plan together, and you refresh, you continually refresh that on a yearly basis, and budget in those items that need to be upgraded and fixed, and that sort of thing too. So
I think, to me, I think an important aspect of your position has to be the coordination among the various town departments in terms of technology needs. And then the recommendations, I guess, of how to follow through on those, along with the maintenance and the implementation. So in terms of a plan for the entire town, your school department, your general government, police, fire, the whole thing, what's your level of involvement to that degree?
that's a good question, actually, too, because I know the police and the fire department kind of are an island unto themselves, and we want that to kind of exist under the one umbrella, of the infrastructure and the department that we have in place now. And that will take some time, but it'll obviously take some reaching out on my part, establishing the relationship with, Tom O'Laughlin and so forth, just to get that going. I think they want to start integrating even the phone systems now, so that might be a good segue to open up the discussion to pull in their IT equipment within this infrastructure too. So I think it's very helpful, and like within the town hall itself, you're absolutely right as far as like knowing each individual department, what they run, the software, the hardware that they need, and understanding that to a full capacity. And we've had, I was fortunate enough to have World Band, before I got hired, they submitted an assessment for the town and an assessment for the school. And we're kind of, going through that and picking the pieces that we see fit in place, really, and build upon that. So that I'm utilizing a lot of that within my plan too. So, over some, time in the near future, I'll have a real sense of what every department is running and pulling in the police and fire too, so.
And are you working under the direction and the supervision of the superintendent and the town administrator? Is that, I mean, I see, we've got this here, but
Yeah.
what's above that?
Oh, okay, yeah, I just thought it was just for the IT
Yeah.
department itself, but, yeah, definitely with Rick and Bob both taking direction. We have the bi-weekly meetings and that sort of thing to kind of assess where we are and what's the priority and the needs, so.
Well, I mean, by all accounts, I mean, this is the first time I've met you, but, from what I've heard, it's been very positive. The folks that I've dealt with, think that, you're doing a great job so far. It sounds like you've got a monumental task in front of you. So I wish you all the best.
Yep.
And, I'm sure the town administrator will be bringing us, reports as we need to know. But I would anticipate that there'll be greater levels of achievement as you get more and more into the different layers.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got a great supporting cast, and as long as they're behind me, then, you know, we can make it a go. So,
Good luck.
I appreciate it.
Thanks, Brian. Bill?
Thank you.
Well, good to see you again.
Yeah.
You know, I have a lot of concerns as it relates to the IT, and, you know, one of my personal goals is to see you be wildly successful. Now, having said that, you adopted a system that was pretty much held together by bubble gum and baling wire. So it wasn't well coordinated. And, you know, from a taxpayer standpoint, they fund IT to at least the tune of $1 million across multiple departments. And so what I don't see, I know there's a world band assessment
Yep.
that exists, and that creates the starting point, a reference point for where we need to go. And, you know, I expect that you would look at that and, you know, 80-20 rule, I don't know what you say, you know, I get this, I agree with this, you know, this piece I'm not really quite sure, I'll put that on the shelf, but for the most part, it's a good assessment, it's a fair assessment, and it told us a great deal about our strengths and weaknesses within the system, especially as it related to hardware. Hardware is a concern of mine, but I don't see the infrastructure in place to support you. I see tickets being generated at a rate that are greater than your ability to close. I see an organizational chart that if I gave it just superficial review, the full-time equivalency here in terms of headcount is really 2.
Yeah.
You have a full-time teacher in a different bargaining unit reporting to the superintendent who, if he could,
Right.
and what I had asked for in an organizational chart when I originally asked for it is, if you held a director's meeting for IT, who's going to show up? If you had the servers down
Yeah.
and you needed all hands on deck on a Saturday, who's going to show up?
Yeah, me and Brandon.
It isn't these people.
No.
The second thing is that I don't see, and that I want to see, and I need to see it out of Bob, and I need to see it out of Rick, is I need to see what your budget is. Now, if I rounded up the dollars that are used within the school department and the town hall and, say, library, for example, I come up with about $800,000 budgeted in this current budget that the taxpayers are funding for IT. Now, I want to know to what extent you have access to those funds. You can leverage those funds to build this backbone, to start to execute on the World Band program before we build strategy for 3 years, as we were talking about, 5 years, because my worry is, as an IT director, it was never my expectation that you'd be answering tickets. Now, I understand you're in a survival mode,
Right.
right? You're in the
Yeah.
pool, the water's deep,
Yep.
and you've got to swim.
Right.
But this is, frankly, not what I'm looking for in an infrastructure. And so what I'd like to see is you managing a department with resources. I'd like to see the various departments that have allocated resources for IT, those resources reporting directly to you. And what I'd like to see is the budgets being used to allocate for IT, you having some control over.
Right.
Otherwise, service level agreements between the school department, the town, library, all of that isn't going to work if everybody's got their fiefdoms, they're stovepiped, and holding on to money. With respect to police and fire, you know, my sense is you're probably about 3 to 5 years away
Yeah.
from convincing them you can support that, because they can't fail today. You know, fire life safety systems, first responders, and all of that. You know, it's one thing not to have a bus where you need it, or it's another thing if computers go down. And I heard us talking about adding users, and I heard us talking about adding computer stations, computers to it. We're adding computers with greater and greater demand on the backbone and the network. We're adding users, and we simply can't keep doing that until we fix. It's like putting a second story on a house that doesn't have a foundation. So I would like to see that strategy. but you gotta be out of the business of doing tickets.
Right.
Because if you're in that business, then you're in a situation where there's no way you can be successful, and the people you're reporting to haven't made you capable of being successful.
Yep.
And Brian talked about 2 previous directors. It was hodgepodge then. I'm not gaining a lot of confidence. It's not in you.
Yep.
Actually, the feedback I've received on you personally, your expertise, your ability to work with people is outstanding. I just worry we're gonna have a revolving door if Rick and Bob don't get together and there's a budget and there's resources. So, I'd encourage, the administrators within both the school and, town hall to do that. We talk about strategy, we talk about 3 and 5 years. If you're answering tickets for keyboards and printers, you'll never get there.
Right.
And that's exactly where our past directors were.
It's a fair and valid point. In the last couple of months, I've been trying to remove myself as much as possible and as quickly as possible because I recognize the need for the infrastructure and that sort of thing too, so. And that's why we're leveraging World Band and that sort of thing is best.
Yeah, but
we
World
can,
Band,
so.
we went from a scenario where World Band was handling our tickets,
Right.
and they were closing them.
Mhm.
There was a great deal of very positive feedback that was coming out from the user community at the user end, saying, hey, this is the best the system has operated, our tickets are getting closed, we submit a ticket, somebody shows up. Now we go back to a scenario where we're currently in a usage of World Band for 4, 5, 6 tickets a week. That puts you right back in the same scenario. So I'd ask that everybody go back and relook at that, because the ticket generation and the issues because you have a very short honeymoon period, right? And if that user community is upset with the performance of the IT department of 2 people, 2 full-time equivalent people, and I don't even want to say 2 full-time. Yes, it's budgeted at 2 full, but I'm talking about one person really primarily handling tickets.
Yeah.
And if you're a month from now still personally handling tickets, I want to talk with you.
Yep.
Because if that's the case, it's unacceptable.
Right.
And if World Band doesn't play, if we're not augmenting with outside, and I say World Band as an example, but frankly, if it's outside people, whatever it takes for you to be successful, and I'd like to be a part of this success, and I'd like you to be successful, I'd like Rick and Bob to be successful, but I don't see it today, and I worry about this position being a revolving door because of it. So, anything you need, I'll give you my cell number. Let me know what you need, and I'll help. I don't want to just sit here and say, I'm concerned, but I'll help if you need it.
Okay, no, I appreciate that, I understand completely, yep.
All right.
Good.
Thank you.
Yeah, Bob.
But just a couple of points of clarification. One is, with respect to adding users, the point I was making was we want to add more users to the network. We're not doing that. I'm reluctant to do that because of that network architecture. It's not, I don't want you to think that we're adding more users to the system. We've had those discussions.
Right.
This has been a topic of discussion. We want to do this down the road. We're not there to do that. The other piece with, and I understand the interest of moving sort of all the technology needs under one house. We have to also be mindful, too, that from the Department of Elementary Secondary Education, they want to see as part of net school spending that there's a technology appropriation in our school budgets that's dedicated toward that. So we have a working relationship with the folks that Paul put on the organizational chart. Whether they should live under Paul and report to Paul, that's a future discussion we can have, but they support a specific, like technology integration specialist is an educator working with educators to integrate the technology that they have, the kids have, or educators have, as part of providing instruction. So we're mindful of all that. I think we need to steady the ship first. I think you're right. I think there's a lot of gum and bailey wire, and as you mentioned, I think that needs to be repaired. But I think we're on making progress toward that. But please understand that Rick and I meet regularly on this topic too, and we've engaged Paul in these discussions.
Well, I have no doubt there's not been a lot of dialogue, and
But it's all hands on deck. It's the point you made earlier. If a server went down, right now
Yeah.
we're sort of in that mode where if I have to fix something.
This isn't an organizational chart. These aren't the people that
Yeah,
report to
I
Paul.
don't, yeah.
Right.
And it says organizational chart.
Well, who else is in your department?
Myself and Brandon, and I kind of included Sarah because it was kind of, we split, Kevin and I kind of split her roles or her responsibilities, so. And then Dan, I just put in there because he assists us, but he doesn't report to me at all, so.
But right now, it's just a department of two.
Teacher.
He's a full-time teacher, right?
Department of two.
Right.
That's correct.
Department of two.
That's correct.
Yes.
There are other resources within the town working on IT,
Correct.
whether they be consultants, whether they be.
Yep.
Kids.
But they're
Yeah.
not, kids, but they're not necessarily available to you, your direction, your control.
Yeah. I just didn't want to
So you're
discredit what
you're
they
the-
provide, so
No,
that's
no,
all.
you're the director of IT, and yet you have no budget, and you have no people, one person.
Well, Paul has full access to all the school technology lines. So, and Paul prepares his own purchase orders for those budgets as well. So even though it's earmarked as a school department budget, if there's a need, for example, for a server at Woodland School, Paul would have the ability to access those funds.
So the 400,000 allocated for the school department, Paul has access to those funds to upgrade the school department backbone such that we're not going to be in the situation. So have we started doing that?
That's correct.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and-
we have.
And that's the point I'm at now too, is because there's yearly costs that I'm still trying to gather, so I don't spend the money that's allocated to yearly subscriptions and budgets and things like that, so it's seeing its way through, and we should have more, within this next couple of weeks, we have a meeting on December 15th to really kind of hammer out these budgetary items.
Yeah, and part of what I worry about and the things I'll lose sleep with on IT are two primary areas. We want to get the needs of the users met, right? And so we need the educational, the activities associated with the various town hall departments. But we need to make sure, and, things that, like, happened once already this year, that we didn't make payroll because of glitches or whatever in the system that, we can call it glitches. I don't know what the definition of a glitch is, but that said, I worry about making payroll. I worry about authentication. I worry about security of our system because we carry a great deal of private information of employees and of parents and students. To be able to look at you and say, are people able to access that information? Do we authenticate every user? How do we authenticate, and how do we make sure that employees that were terminated yesterday no longer have access to our system? Those are, if we want to talk strategy, we can talk strategy, that's great, but I don't know that, your 5 months here is giving you that level of security and confidence in the system.
Yeah.
But from an adding user standpoint, we are adding computers. We are still adding users. New people roll in every day. We're adding users, and we're adding users to a backbone. It's like, I don't know. I keep saying, putting the roof on the house that doesn't have a foundation. It doesn't matter. It's not going to stay up. It will not sustain itself, and the ticket system is a good thing in the sense that we're able to talk about our inability to sustain current operations and tickets coming in being generated at a rate greater than we can get to them. Now the question is, what are we doing about it? And I'm hoping some of these technology funds that exist within the service level agreement between the school and the town fund and solve those problems beginning this year. Because I heard a great deal of us talking about what the next year's budget ought to look like. We've got $1 million in townwide IT, 400,000 within the school system. If we're not doing it now, then Paul's going to be answering tickets for printers and keyboards and mice until he decides it's not the thing he wants to do. So
I'm just jotting that down, I'm not texting, I'm jotting this down on my phone,
no,
so.
that's okay. That's okay. So
I thought you were fixing
whatever
the
we
ticket.
can do to help, I want a sense of urgency to exist within the people that are directing you, because I want to make sure that you're given everything you need to be successful within reason, and then let us know what more you need. And I'm talking about within the next 30, 60, 45 days.
Right.
Because we've got to protect the existing system. And I don't want a scenario like we ran into before where payroll wasn't met and we told people, well, we catch up with them on the next payroll swing. It's absolutely unacceptable. So I appreciate it. Thank you, Paul. This is something that's very passionate for me. It's not just IT. Everybody thinks of it as a computer. It's how we pay people. It's where we assign people. It's giving them the tools to be successful in all the departments. And I know you know it, but thank you.
Okay.
All right, thank
Anything
you for
else?
your time, appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Bob.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, John, come on up. Okay, next we have John Erickson, the building inspector, who will be talking to us about the building department, all the reports that he has for us, and also updates on the task force. Welcome, John.
Hi, thank you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I thought with the invite to come in tonight, I would sort of recap the task force and, its origin and inspiration and where we were, where we are, and where we're going. As you all know, the Neighborhood Task Force was formed in the summer of 2011 to deal with the problem properties of town. The most notable were Water Street, West Street, and all the adjacent streets in those neighborhoods. So, the task force consists of members of the police, fire, health, and Department of Inspections. The assessors join us on occasion depending on what type of inspections we're doing that week. Excuse me. So we started on the most visible areas, which were Lower Water Street, Bancroft Ave, Oliver. The initial complaints were really the accumulation.
That's fine.
Sorry about that.
Oh, that's all right.
The initial complaints mostly were the accumulation of trash, junk, debris, the overall unkemptness of the properties, and lots of complaints on overcrowding, possibly illegal apartments. So the initial effort was to walk through the neighborhoods as a group. We started off doing it 1 day per week, typically on Wednesdays, and we would just literally walk through the streets and look at each property. Numerous violations were found. Again, the accumulation of trash, debris, some illegal apartments, unsafe egress components, fire prevention violations, missing smokes, carbon monoxide detectors, things of that nature, and other various violations. Later in 2011, at the October special town meeting, Article 31 was adopted, which is the nuisance and vacant properties bylaw. That gave us a lot more powerful regulations to enforce, the trash, junk, debris again. Prior to that, we had Board of Health regulations, which our health department did enforce, but these were a little tighter and more stringent. So as progress was made on the exterior of all these properties, after about a year, we shifted our focus into the interior of the multifamily homes. State building code requires a periodic inspection and a valid certificate of inspection for multifamily homes, 3 and above, as a condition to remain occupied. So combining this requirement with task force inspections has been a very effective means for truly ensuring compliance with both zoning and building code life safety regulations. At this time, we alternate between these types of inspections. The past several months, we've been walking the neighborhoods again, many of the same neighborhoods, Water Street, West Street, and again, the adjoining Bancroft, Oliver, Taylor, Thayer. And we were actually pleased to find that we didn't have very many recurring violations. There were some, but overall, we were really pleased with the condition of the properties. Past few weeks, we've been working on Main Street, Jefferson Street, and we're working our way towards East Main Street. As the winter kicks in, we'll be shifting our focus again towards the interior inspections. Just as to explain our course of action when we find an inspection, we notify the owners in writing. We cite, the specific violation and, the possible penalties if they don't comply. We try to communicate accurately and respectfully, and I'd say 9 out of 10 times it's, the initial notice is very effective. Most owners are eager to comply. If there's no response, we'll send out a second notice, letting them know how serious we are and how serious we consider the matter. On the few times that doesn't garner any action, we will go file an application for criminal complaint with the district court, which we've done, as you know. And typically the summons motivates people to comply, and there's been a few times where we've had to go before the clerk magistrate who has resolved the issue. So that's the short version of where, why, and how we've been doing this. And I've included a report last week of inspections, or complaints, open complaints, closed complaints, and what some of our actions were. We've begun to, note these actions like we discussed during the last meeting, and I tried to be as thorough by backtracking and putting in notes. But going forward, we're going to keep, I think, notes so that you guys will have a more clear understanding of where we are with some of the properties. So when you get the calls, you'll know where we stand.
John, thanks for your report on the properties that I talked to you about, so thank you for that.
Okay.
And we'll go to Brian. Brian?
Yeah, no, thank you, John. So as I look at this, it looks like it's, I guess, more or less a quarterly report. We're talking about August 1st to October 31st, so, if I look at this correctly, you have a total of 149 different complaints, correct?
Yes.
And of that, closed is 116, and 33 remain open. And then, of course, you give us the backup to that. And oftentimes, the open portion simply means that you've applied for criminal complaints or other court action. So there's still progress being made on the open complaints.
Yeah, there's still progress, and, once we file a complaint, it takes some time, as you know, to get a hearing date. So, at this point, those may, not have any further action for a couple of months. And then when we go forward, I'll update those status.
And then as you look at the major groupings, out of that 149, the bulk really deals with illegal signs, nuisance, or unregistered motor vehicles.
Yeah, that's the majority of it.
Pretty much what you're dealing with. I think there was one, Depot Street, I think there was one I ran into. It looked like it was illegal dwelling unit, but those, I'm sure there were others, but it looks like that type of complaint has minimized greatly.
I think it absolutely has. We've solved a number of those issues, and we're not finding them like we were in 2011, 2012 when we were.
And I would think that that's a direct result of the bylaw that's been put in place, the Board of Health efforts, the registration that landlords are required to go forth. And, it was not, too long ago when that was a major problem in town. So to see that as kind of a footnote almost, I think is gratifying, and goes to the kind of work that gets done here. So I commend you, with this work. I think it's good work. These kinds of problems aren't easy to deal with, because I think you're getting into the lower level violations. And when I say that, I mean that they're not as easy to distinguish. So that if someone complains, for example, that bushes are overgrown at a particular residence, at some point a judgment has got to be made whether or not that's a violation or not, as opposed to some of the other clearer violations that had existed previously. So, I think progress is being made in this regard, and I think, again, it's a daily battle, and just continue the work with the team to remain vigilant so that these types of problems are minimized.
Thank you, we will. It's a part of what we do every week, and there was a period, we didn't necessarily walk every single week, but we, working on these issues and outstanding issues and working with property owners and communications, we deal with things, and we are back to walking, but, we'll get emails all the time with, complaints. We had one about, fire alarms up on Bancroft Ave a few months ago. That came via email through the police department, but, Officer Paul Pinto worked on that, and Deputy Chief Mark Nelson, and they got, you know, a relatively minor issue, but it was good that they got that resolved. So it's just really what we do every
Yeah.
single day.
And I mean, it's a good point in the sense that this is not the only thing that you do, or the only thing that your office is obligated to do. So, I mean, to be able to devote this kind of attention to this area of the job, yeah, I think you're doing a great job.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks, Brian. Bill?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. John, I want to agree with some of the things that have been said. It's an incredibly difficult job that you have. I get it. There have been times where I've seen you out at night looking at lights and talk. So it can be day and night. I think if you had 24 hours a day to devote to this for the next 6 months, we'd still be looking at some of the backups in terms of some of the magistrate issues, some of the closure on some of these things. You know, I think it is an enormously challenging position. The last time, and I just want to make sure I understand the difference between now and the last time we talked, because the last time we talked, you essentially said you weren't able to get to the task force stuff because you've been doing permitting for a while, and it had been a while since you'd worked directly with, the Board of Health, going out, hitting the pavement with the Board of Health and police and fire. How many task force meetings with Board of Health, police, and fire have you been able to actually put the boots on, go out into the neighborhoods in the last, say, 3 months?
In the last 3 months, once a week. Well, definitely since that last meeting, once a week. I'm not sure if that was 2 months ago or 3 months ago when, I was last.
Yeah, it was more about
in
5
before the
weeks
board.
ago. So once a week since you met with us, because I know Dino and I had stressed the importance of that task force, and that continues.
We've always done once a week, and the amount of work that we generate from once a week is as much as we can handle. And
I'm not sure I get that. Go ahead, say that again.
well, the amount of work, paperwork, office work, court work that we generate from going out on task force once a week generates so much of that, along with everything else that we do, that to go out, we don't have the time to go out more than once a week. But
I get it now. And it goes back to what Brian was saying, because there's a whole lot of other activity,
And really-
licensing and permitting and
yeah, I mean,
helping builders and.
I had put together a memo a while back about the number of permits that we've done
saw that,
over
yeah.
the 10-year span, and 2013, 2014 are far and away going to be, what was and is going to be more than we ever have. But with that said, the task force isn't anything different than we do with zoning all day, every day. It's just a little bit more concentrated effort in some of the, areas of town that we've seen, we've deemed problematic.
Yeah, and I would say, the same thing we said before, and the same thing Dino articulated the last time we talked. It's vitally important that, police, fire, Board of Health, building department get together and go out and do that as frequently as possible.
Mhm.
I think we had asked that got restarted after a long lapse some years ago.
Yeah.
And kick that off again. We asked you to be the spearhead or the point of that activity, focal point for pulling all those resources together. We just want to tell you how important it is, and just echo some of the things that this board has said about how important it is that you're in those neighborhoods and seeing what's going on. But I appreciate the report you gave us, and actually the historical perspective of going years back to the origin of the bylaw and some of the other things that you brought today, so thank you.
Yeah, no, John, as you know, we talk often. I'm always calling you up, John, go check this out, go check that out. You do. You're inundated in that office with so many requests, and that's good. I think you have a direct effect on the livelihood of the people who live in neighborhoods. When something's wrong, they bring it to your attention, and you and Laurie are able to go out there. Just like we had a discussion with the IT guy half an hour ago, I wish you had another person or two to go out there, especially during the summertime, and check out some of these places. you know, if we don't, not to be redundant, but if we don't maintain that vigilance, then these things happen. So by having the task force, by going out there with the police and fire, Laurie, people talk, you know, and if, you know, there was a situation on Sumner Street a few weeks back. Someone had told these people that the task force was coming around. Well, you know, they had 10 people in a house. They weren't supposed to live there, and 8 of them left overnight. So it's that type of thing. And, you know, we all say that the neighborhoods are most important. And you know, we appreciate the work that you do on a daily basis. Even if someone calls, someone says, hey, this guy's he's got a boat, or there's all kinds of leaves growing or grass growing. If you check it out and you make a judgment that it's okay or it's not a violation, fine. But at least we've shown that person in the neighborhood that, hey, we care, you're out there, and whatever you do has a great benefit to everybody in the community. Can I just ask a question on, you know that situation, there was a fire on Water Street 6-8 months ago on the left going down?
The house had to be torn down.
It's
Oh,
torn
yeah.
down. Yeah. What's happening with that? I went by the other day, and so what happens now to that location as far as, is it rebuilt? I mean, I guess
Yeah,
it's still kind of tough.
There's plans in place to rebuild it. I don't know if he's actually obtained the building permit yet, but he came in with plans and a plot plan, and we looked it over, and he has a design on a nice small 2-family home. They went to the zoning board for an opinion and finding on whether or not a special permit was going to be required, and it came back that they didn't. So he's ready to rebuild.
Okay.
And it's a really nice plan that really will fit with the neighborhood.
And the only reason I bring it up is that, and you do a nice job, you try to be proactive. You know, that's in one of the older sections, the south end of town, and the houses don't cost $400,000 and all that. And I think if that situation had been in another area, maybe, you know, it would have been different than now. So we still have residents, we still have children living next door and all that. So we just got to make sure that we're on top of it and that we, you know, get that cleaned up. But that's important.
Yeah, I believe the construction's gonna start before the end of the year on that.
Okay.
That was his plan.
Yeah. All right, if there's no other questions, we appreciate that, John, you know, keep close contact with the administrator and, you know, provide us, you know, you come in every couple of months or whatever. But if there's things you want to inform us about, you know, continue to write reports and write memos to the board because, you know, I know we all call you up on a regular basis to say, check things out. And it's very tedious work, it's complicated. Your position is most important. And also, we appreciate any advice and counsel that you've been giving the Commission on Disability. So you may not become a regular member, but I think every meeting, every other meeting, a half an hour is going there as far as answering their questions and talking to them, educating them on the process and accessibility and all that, I think goes a long way. Because I don't think we have many communities in the area where the building commissioner, zoning officer communicates with the Commission on Disability around those most important issues, and so we appreciate that.
Yeah, no, it's my pleasure. I've been meeting with 2 of the members, now one current and one former member.
Yeah.
Once a month, we've been talking about open issues, and, you know, they put together an agenda on what
Sure.
questions they have and what, you know, if they want to know status on a certain situation. So
So I'd
it's a
appreciate-
good working relationship.
I'd appreciate if you could go to the meetings on a half an hour at the beginning.
Mhm.
Not everyone, of course, but, and just talk to them to see what's on the agenda or anything that comes up. You know, when they deal with the hospital, they deal with different issues, handicap parking and all that, accessibility. I think, you know, you have a wealth of information. You're a smart kid, you went to WPI, so you can provide so much valuable input to these boards, and what you're doing for the town is most valuable. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Take care, John.
Good night, all.
All right. Go home now, you don't have to check out our house, okay? All right, that concludes the public hearing scheduled appointments. At this time, we'll go to the town administrator's report.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a reminder, the town hall will be closed at 1 PM on Wednesday, November 26, 2014, the day before Thanksgiving. We will reopen on Friday, November 28th. The winter parking ban is in effect from December 1st, 2014 through March 15, 2015. Parking on the street is prohibited between midnight and 6 a.m. regardless of weather conditions. Violators will be subject to a fine. I just want to inform everyone that we will be hosting a program presented by the 495 Metro West Partnership along with Mass Development at the Upper Town Hall this Wednesday, November 19th, from 8:30 to approximately 11 a.m. The program will include presentations on manufacturing, suburban economic development, and regional employer survey. And a reminder that Milford Cable TV will be upgrading the equipment used to broadcast in Room 3. The work will be done on November 24th and 25th. Upgrades will include 4 new robotic HD cameras mounted in the existing camera locations, plus 1 new camera to be located next to the projector for a better angle to view physical presentations such as PowerPoint, maps, etc. There'll also be a new HD switcher to boost more professional programming during meetings, and a new wireless microphone system with a variety of 14 rechargeable microphones, which will include tabletop and handheld microphones. The Town Hall gutter project is underway. Our roofing consultant, Russo Bar, is finalizing the plans and specs. The project will be advertised for bidding in the Central Register on Wednesday, November 19th. Construction documents will be available electronically for bidders on November 20th. Weather permitting, the work will be completed, we hope, by the end of the year. Work was done, is being done, by Mass DOT on November 10th at Route 16 and Route 109. The work includes improvements to the sidewalk, ramps, crosswalks, the edge of the sidewalk on Route 16. Work should be completed by the end of the week. The Highway Department, thanks to Scott, previously cut vegetation along the sidewalk and removed a sign and a post, and this work will fulfill our town's obligation regarding the ADA compliance issue at that intersection. I was informed that Palmer Federal began site work on Milford Pond Restoration Project. Work was done last Thursday and Friday. I will keep the board updated on this particular project. And finally, I just want to recognize and thank the Milford Police and Fire Department personnel, as well as National Grid personnel, for their work in handling an incident this past Saturday night. As I believe you were informed, a car hit a pole near Rosenfeld Field, causing a transformer to blow out on Route 16, which resulted in a power outage in that area up to nearly the Sacred Heart Church. The police responded to handle the traffic as Route 16 was closed and traffic diverted. Fire Department responded to handle the burning caused by the transformer. Police Chief O'Laughlin kept me informed throughout the night. National Grid worked to first fix the pole at Rosenfeld Field, and then the transformer, restoring power to the area. I want to commend everyone who responded. They did their job in a highly trained, professional, and cooperative manner. And again, thanks to all of them. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Rick. Brian, any questions for the administrator?
No questions.
Bill?
No, just a couple of things. The 495 Metro West Partnership meeting on manufacturing suburban economic development, is the IDC invited to that?
IDC, Planning Board, all the various boards have
Good,
been
good.
invited, yes.
And just glad to see and glad to hear, you mentioned the first responders. I know there was even an issue compounding that, and
Yes.
that a pedestrian was hit at the same time, or nearly the same time, while they were handling all the other calls. So I appreciate you bringing that out. Nice work, and they did a great job.
They did, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Old business, Brian?
No old business.
Bill?
Yeah, we had brought up, and I know I had specifically brought up, having Milford Cable come in to the board. There's an obligation as part of our contract that we've not been meeting, and we should be. I'm just wondering when that meeting is
Yes, that
scheduled.
can be arranged in December. The report is filed, we have that, so it'll be in a December meeting, if the board would like. Yep, we're ready to do that. I have spoken with Rob O'Keefe.
Okay. That'd be great, as soon.
At Milford TV, yep.
Okay. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Rick, on the a very nice letter you put together for the department heads on the electrical situation and what the costs are and all that. I was reading the Beacon, and there's something on page 10. We don't have to get into it now, but maybe you can look at this and see if there's anything that we might be able to use in town, okay? Sure. All right. New business, Jamison Mendel to sell the Christmas trees.
I'll move.
Motion
Second.
by Brian, seconded by Bill. Any discussion? All in favor? A gift from the water company to Upper Charles Trail. Motion by Brian, seconded by Bill. Any discussion? That's unanimous. Brian, any new business?
No, no new business.
Okay. Bill?
No new business.
Okay, I just have a couple of things. About 8 years ago, we created a committee on tax relief for senior citizens. Very good committee. We went to town meeting twice, and the town meeting adopted asset limits, income limits, age limit, and it's helped probably about 70 senior citizens with taxes, relief on their taxes. A couple of weeks ago, I reconvened the committee, a couple of new members, 3 new members, and we'll be coming up with some recommendations, which we will bring to this board first before the committee goes to town meeting. So probably at a meeting in December, I'll have the committee come in and we can update the board members on what our recommendations would be going forward. And also, I've been trying to, I brought it up before, we're going to be meeting with the landlords in an early morning. And I did this about 25 years ago, and it worked out very well. Landlords, businesses, talking about, what can the town do to help them be more viable, more productive as far as bringing in customers. I mean, talk about sidewalks, parking lots, that type of thing. We've done a lot. There's no question we've done a lot. And but I think it's time to maybe bring in the businesses again, just to talk about what their feelings are, and also some of the ideas and thoughts that we've had, regarding storefronts and making sure that if you're selling so much material that it's handicap accessible, things like that. So I think it'll be a good discussion, and then I can report back to the board, and the board can use this in the future as far as the whole idea of revitalization and what can be done that maybe something hasn't been thought of, but it's got to be a two-way street, and so that'll probably be held in December sometime. We do have a National Grid double poles. Rick?
Yep, there is, this is their monthly report. If you read the first page, presently, I guess there are 61 double poles. They've removed 6. They installed 10 for what they call reliability reasons, and I guess what that means is...
No, it's just,
No, it's just.
one goes, another
I know.
one.
I got curious, so I asked what reliability reasons means, and I guess it means that the pole was older and needed replacing, or the customer's loads have increased, requiring them to replace the transformer and the pole at the same time. For example, would be some of those on East Main Street. They also replaced 3 poles on Jackson Street and Cook Street. If you remember, there was a pole in the middle of the road there, and I believe Highway was doing some paving. So they were very cooperative in making, replacing those 3 poles and removing one in the middle of the roadway. So, yeah, as you say, it is an up and down battle. But the other thing they are doing is working on the process of updating the shared database, so then we'll have a real accurate double pole number and assessment.
But Rick, don't you agree that, I think since Mr. Russell has been coming and forwarding information to us, I think he's been the most responsible.
Bob has been excellent. I really want to commend him. When a light is out, for example, I mean, he's there within an hour or two sending me a photo from his cell phone and telling me when it will be taken care of. So he has been very helpful, and he's very helpful on the Cook Street, removing those poles that Scott had to move quickly to do paving. But I really have enjoyed working with him.
We have 3 letters that Tom O'Laughlin has written to DOT regarding asking them to authorize the installation of speed limit signs on Beaver Street, northbound, southbound, northbound, and also on Mount Pleasant Street at number 4 and 80 in the town of Milford. This is the jurisdiction of the DOT, so hopefully they'll be doing that quickly. And then a 30-mile speed limit on Diller Street, which is thickly settled and a lot of commuter traffic. Anything else, Brian?
The only thing, before I forget, I took this email, we got the dog complaint from this Julianne Bondino. If you could just grab me a form before I leave, and I'll email it off to her, have her fill the form out, that we can have a hearing. I just want to do it before I forget.
Okay, anything else?
No, that's it.
Bill,
Thanks.
anything?
No, just an observation on the National Grid double pole situation. And I count over 50 where cable transfer is holding it up. And so, when I look at the process, it looks like they're the ones having the most impact on the delay.
You are correct, and that's the frustration, I think, that they all face. Sometimes it's one party is done, but the other is not.
Well, no, specifically, there's one that's holding up over 50 poles to be buttoned up. And so, just an observation, I think we ought to be aware of that, mindful of that. The other thing is, I had asked a while back if we could get age of double pole. That way we'd know from an age report how long it's been on there.
The process of the updating hopefully will accomplish that for us.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when do you expect that we'll have that in
They
place?
said, I think next several months, it's gonna be a little while.
All right, I don't have anything more. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I think that's it for the open session. We do have, before we get, I mentioned for executive session, on behalf of the board, certainly want to wish everyone a very happy and safe Thanksgiving next week, so that's always a big day in the town, of course. We have 3 items for collective bargaining, highway, eminent domain, and contract employment with an individual. Is there a motion for executive session? Motion by Brian.
I'll second.
Seconded by Bill. Any discussion? We will not be coming back into open session. All in favor? Roll call vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Good night.